He's a new guy now. Now I get to see him.
Gonna bring ice cream.
Oh yeah.
It's 5:45, we'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Turn it over there.
So tonight, Mayor and Council, we have really three parts of a PowerPoint workshop session. Mr. Marvin's going to go over the utility capital improvement project update. And then we'll do the second half with Mr. Gavilinas and Chief Herbo, talk to you about salary surveys and the police hiring update. So with that, we'll turn it over to Keith, and we can start it out.
Thanks, Eric. Mayor and Council. You've seen David up here a number of times the last few months. It's my turn now. We're going to talk a little bit about utility capital improvement projects. As you probably are aware, we do maintain a 10-year utility capital improvement plan with large projects looking out over the next 10 years. And those consist of water distribution, wastewater collection, treatment facilities, as well as it differentiates in some cases between cash-funded projects and bond-funded projects. We do have several ongoing projects that may impact that outlook, move those projects around a little bit, and those are, we do have a master plan update, both a water and wastewater master plan update. That's actually on your agenda tonight, on your consent agenda to approve that project. And then we have an I&I evaluation, flow monitoring, and evaluation of our wastewater collection system. That's also on your agenda tonight. The results of those may change the priorities of some of the projects on that 10-year outlook. You approved a few months back a infrastructure assessment project, and that is looking at all of our wastewater lines, all of our water lines, looking at the likelihood of failure and the consequence of failure on all of those lines. Likelihood obviously depends upon age, pipe material, location, various things that would cause something to be more likely to fail. And then consequence, what happens if that item fails? What's the downside? What's the cost? What's the damage? What's the impact to the community? When we're done with that, that may reprioritize some of the projects. And then obviously cost increases. We've talked a lot about the escalation of construction costs and whatnot. As those costs go up, we have a finite amount of resources. We have to look at programming those dollars effectively. It may push some of those projects out. So I mentioned the water and wastewater master plan update. What we're going to do is we're going to study all of the distribution system, all the water distribution, all the wastewater collection, look at capacities, look at development that has occurred, look at future development and see, do we have the correct capacity to serve those future customers. So we're looking at obviously redevelopment, continuing development. Annexation of Castle Hills is a big thing. The last time we redid these plans was 2010, and it extended into 2011. You'll see 2011 on the actual product. But at that time, Castle Hills annexation was not as near term as it is today. And so looking at it, we're going to look at a different approach to collecting the wastewater from Castle Hills and transiting it over to the plant where it'll be treated. So we're going to look at that. There are a couple of lift stations that we were proposing to pump Louisville wastewater around Castle Hills. It may not make sense to do that today. It may make more sense to allow it to flow through Castle Hills. Once they're within the city of Louisville, we'll remove meters. So right now we meter everything that flows into Castle Hills and meter everything that flows back out. So we're double metering some of our own flow. We're also going to look at water age and operational things. Water age is how old does our water get in our system. At a certain point, it actually needs to be dumped out on the ground because it's no longer serviceable. It loses its chlorine residual and becomes beyond the age that we can use it. So we'll look at any operational recommendations that come out of that. Last updated in 2010, we do have $60,000 on the agenda tonight to approve that master plan update. Some of these projects are done out of engineering. This is one of them, Midway Branch Lift Station and Force Main. I mentioned two other lift stations and force mains that were associated with Castle Hills. We're going to restudy that, see if they're necessary. This one, Midway Branch, is necessary and will be done. It's going to cost us about $11.4 million. You'll see we have roughly 9.4. We're about $2 million short on that. As we go into the final design, though, we do have some issues with this alignment. You can see we're actually proposing to come straight through the middle of Leela over to the wastewater treatment plant. David and his staff have been working with the Corps of Engineers, and we're getting a little bit of brushback on that alignment. We may have to reroute the alignment. So as we go through it, we'll finalize those drawings. We'll determine what that alignment's going to be, and we'll look at the final cost and probably look to augment what's available in the CIP funds, modify that 10-year plan a little bit to provide all the funding we need for that. There is a piece of that that will go with the Holford's Prairie construction that will move a little bit faster, and David will get that done probably starting later this year or early next year. Also, Midway West Water Main, that's a 24-inch transmission line, basically getting from the west side of the Elm Fork over to the east side, connecting over to Midway Pump Station. That's a $5 million project. We do have $5 million available in the CIP, and so we should be moving forward with that. They're working on some finalizing easement acquisition to get through the landfill. And so that should go to construction again late fall of this year or early next year. I-35 elevated storage tank. So we've talked about this one a little bit in the past. One of the things that we'll look at on that master plan update is what to do with that tower. How should it be operated? What size should it be? Is it even necessary? That master plan will look at that. I mentioned on here moving it to the 740 pressure zone. That would actually not move the tower. This 740 pressure zone would be expanded a little bit to include that tower at the current location. When I say current location, we are working on the I-35 expansion and trying to determine exactly, does that tower need to come down and be relocated, pushed back on that site as part of that 35 expansion. It looks like it will. We will need to do something with that tower in the next 2 to 3 years, either replace it or rehabilitate it. We don't use it all year. We are using it right now during the summertime. It holds 500,000 gallons of water. Mentioned water age earlier. We don't use nearly as much water in the wintertime, so it ages in that tower. So we actually take the tower offline. We bring it back online for the summertime. But we'll look at that in greater detail on that master plan update and get some more information from that design engineer on where that tower should be, how it should operate, that sort of thing. So we'll have more information on that at the conclusion of that study.
Just a quick question, Keith. So I appreciate the water aging issue. When you drain that tower and you fill it back up, you do that over and over again. How does that affect the life expectancy or the maintenance on that tower?
It really doesn't affect, I mean, that's what towers are doing all day, every day. They're coming down and they're going back up. We're draining the water out of the tower to be consumed in the system, and then we're filling it back up. So that's a normal cycle of a water tower. We paint both the interior and the exterior, and we've done a few of those lately, and that's good for 15 to 20 years. So that's what the life cycle of the tower does. We don't typically drain it and keep it empty for a while, but we have on that one just because of the operational challenges with it. Timber Creek aerial crossings, we've got 13 sewer crossings and 2 water crossings along Timber Creek. Some of them are in very rough shape. They need to be replaced. We've bid this project twice, and with the cost escalation, it's just been more than we could afford at the time. So what we've got, 3.1 million available. It's come in closer to 6 million. So we're going to do one of 2 things. We're going to prioritize them and build what we can with available funding, or we're going to reorganize our CIP plan a little bit to make sure that we get all the ones that are in dire need of replacement. We met today and talked about it. It doesn't make sense to take some that absolutely need to be done and push them out a couple of years if we can reorganize that plan a little bit and fund them now. One, we'll get better economy of scale if we build more with the same contractor at one time. And then 2, the cost escalation does not appear to be coming back down anytime soon. So we're gonna do our best we're gonna get everything done that needs to get done. If there are some out there that are on the list just because they're close to others that needed to be done, we won't spend money on something that doesn't absolutely need to be done. We're gonna look at that and rebid it again later on this fall with the construction starting next year. I-35 water and sewer rehab, we've got some 12-inch water and sewer that's going to be rebuilt out there, I guess south of Bel Air and north of Corporate, along the west side of I-35 in conjunction with that I-35 project. And here we said we've got 1.2 million available, we've got 1.9 as our construction estimate. Again, we met this morning with Gina, and it looks like we can fund that additional $700,000 in next year's CIP program. So that'll go to construction next year. It's about 60% complete with the design at this time. Raw water line south of the dam, we've talked about this more recently, that seepage area number 1 shown on the screen, where the Corps of Engineers is going to do some permanent repairs to that dam, is in conflict with both of our raw water lines, so we're going to move those. We've got $4.5 million set aside for that project, and it looks like we're going to be fine in terms of being able to construct it within that budget. So that project will take place next year as well. Vista Ridge lift station improvements. Vista Ridge down on the south side of town, almost into the city of Coppell to our south. That station has reached its life expectancy. We're going to replace the pumps and motors and all of the electrical, all of the controls. We're going to do some site work, some site improvements. We're also going to put in a bar screen and a odor control system that very similar to what we did at the Timber Creek lift station. We redid that. That should take care of some of our odor problems that we've had in our force main going back out towards Timber Creek lift station. So that'll be a big project. 4.6 million is the estimated cost for that. We did sell 2.8 million this year, and again, we're asking to add another 1.8. We may bump that to 2 for the 17-18 CIP plan year.
Keith, if you don't mind, for the group, would you give just a quick summary of what a lift station is, force mains, and the overall concept?
Sure, yeah. This is all wastewater. Wastewater is primarily water. There are some solids and organic materials in there, but it's 99% water, and it likes to flow downhill. So we build gravity lines. We collect them as long as they can flow in the proper direction and they don't get too deep. It's very practical just to let it flow downhill. At some point, we have to get everything back up to the Prairie Creek lift station, which is much higher elevation, and we cannot gravity flow from this location up there. So we build a big pit, big wet well we call it, where the water comes in, fills up. We've got a series of pumps that then turn on and pump it through a smaller force main. So when I say force main, it's pushing, the pumps are actually pushing the water through that line. And in this case, it actually goes around and up the I-35 corridor over to the Timber Creek lift station. And from there, it's lifted again and sent all the way to the plant. So we try to minimize the number of lift stations. We do have 15 lift stations on our wastewater system, and so this is one of the larger ones. We've got several around the lake that are very small, but practically as you go downhill towards the lake, it's very hard to flow from there back out of the lake. So we have a number of small lift stations up around the lake. Vista Ridge, Timber Creek, and then right at the plant where the water comes into the plant, we've got Prairie Creek lift station, and those are our 3 larger lift stations. Midway Branch will be a fairly sizable lift station as well, or maybe, depending on the outcome of that study that we're going to do. Does that kind of cover it? Speaking of the wastewater plant, we do have electrical improvements scheduled out there. That plant, much of that plant was built at various phases. Much of it's reached 20 or 30 years of age and is no longer efficient. We've got some grounding issues. We've got surge protection that we need to put in out there. And then we've got a number of aged electrical components, switch gears and motor control center panels and whatnot that need to be replaced. So we've got $385,000 requested, and that'll be a line item request in our operating budget for next year, as opposed to going into the CIP, just because of the short-term nature of that project. We build it next year in 2018. Meter replacement program, y'all heard me talk about meters last budget hearing, last August, and so we chose the manual option, but we did get the feedback that it does make sense from a water loss standpoint and a financial standpoint to go ahead and replace all these meters. So again, we got 23,000 meters in service. We're going to replace them over a 5-year program, beginning fall of 2017, and funding it at approximately $1 million per year over the next 5 years. That cost will go up a little bit each year with the anticipated increase in cost of meters. We factored in, I think, a 5% increase per year for the cost of the meters. So we'll begin that project later on this fall. So in summary, we've got a long-term capital improvement plan. We cover both specific projects and some broader conceptual things in there. We've got some, things like ozone. We've got a plug dollar amount in there for that. That's not based on a detailed cost estimate. It's a conceptual dollar amount. And so as we get closer to building some of those things, we refine those estimates. The costs change a little bit. So we do need to maintain some flexibility in the plan to accommodate those changes. Regulatory changes, both of our plants, our water distribution, our collection system is all regulated by the state. If they decide, every 2 years they get together and they can decide to change regulatory requirements on us, and we do have to be flexible to accommodate those changes as well. Development activity, big user comes in and says, hey, I need 3 million gallons of water every day. You know what, we're gonna have to make some changes to our plan to accommodate that. We'll do it, but it'll take some changes. So, cost escalation, obviously, unforeseen or premature failure of items. Obviously, those things would impact that capital plan, as well as a number of other potential things that could require us to modify the plans. We do remain flexible with that. We do use a lot of outside consultants to study and recommend operational efficiencies, modeling the different systems to make sure that our water pressures are adequate, that our volumes are adequate, that sort of thing. And then any other upgrades or replacements necessary to maintain our ability to serve our customers. And so it's kind of a brief update. I went into a little more detail on the projects that are near term this year and next year. There's 10 years, there's a lot more projects on that list that are far enough out that it didn't make sense to try to put numbers and discuss details on them. Be happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Any regulations come through this last biennial that may affect you?
So the biggest thing that we've got right now out there pending is our permit for our wastewater plant is up for renewal. We've submitted everything. There is some discussion about whether we'll have to test for the ammonia limits on our wastewater discharge. Right now, it's not part of our permit requirements. We test periodically, and we don't have an ammonia problem. But if we do have to test and submit those on a daily basis based on that regulatory change, on that permit change, there'd be there's actually a piece of equipment that we've got a budget request out there for that we would need to purchase in the event that permit comes back with that requirement. If it doesn't, we won't need the piece of equipment though. So it's one of those interesting things. To answer the question about coming out of the legislative session, I haven't got the details of everything that was produced that may impact the water system or the wastewater system. We're still looking at that.
I have a question for you that, after I went through this, when I was reading about this, crossed my mind. It's not really exactly the scope of this, but it's related. So as we look at bringing Castle Hills in through annexation, UTRWD, the BWU contract, our treatment plant supply limit, have we looked at how all of that's going to balance out, what the impact might be to water rates, the BWU contract?
Have we looked at it? It is being looked at. Do we have an answer? No. Now, right now, Castle Hills wastewater comes to us. We treat that anyway, so it is part of that system. You are correct. Upper Trinity sells them treated water. We don't currently purchase treated water from Upper Trinity.
Right.
I believe that what will happen is that we will have to absorb that contract in some fashion. And I haven't had a chance to look at it. I know Liz may have somebody pulling all that stuff together to be reviewed and looked at, but I don't think anything has been determined for sure how that'll be done.
There's a lot of moving parts there.
Definitely part of the matrix there, and we are looking at that in their, they're still setting rates out there as far as the County Freshwater Supply District, and that's fine. But one of our moves is to look at the rate structure with that in mind, with opportunity, we currently supply water north of 544, so we are looking at that, and that'll be something in the next year we're gonna get more into, looking at that, how they service their meters, their operational things with their water system and their sewer system. I think there's questions of what's going on with the properties east of Castle Hills, and where that goes into Carrollton, and of course we have the new sections along Josie, that's part of the master plan, but to answer your question, we're starting to look into that and get some answers and work with in the freshwater district on those types of issues.
This master plan is really gonna look at capacity rather than contract and who provides it and that sort of thing.
Well, that's why I said it wasn't really exactly, but I thought that,
All good questions though, things that'll need to be addressed for sure.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thanks, Mayor. I think Matt's gonna talk to you about big plan methodology, and I think Chief Probost's gonna add some too, as well as the police staff.
So, thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me speak tonight on this. We'll just jump into the compensation piece. Each year we do a salary survey, which we've just completed, and I want to talk to those items with you tonight. A good place to start is the differences between internal and external equities. When we're determining internal equities, I have a person on staff that is our compensation analyst, and she'll look at new positions when we're determining where they need to fall in the different pay plans. We'll analyze the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are required for that position, and then based on that point factor system helps us to be consistent in where we're placing these new positions. The external equities a little more in depth with, we're doing a full market analysis. We look at the surrounding cities because we want to make sure we're competitive with their cities. We're competing against everybody in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the same employees. So we want to make sure we're competitive to retain employees and then to get new employees. So part of the Administrative 2.7.4 directive under the performance eval, every year we do an annual salary survey. We work with a Metroplex survey group. This Metroplex survey group is made up of 14 other cities in the Metroplex. And it's nice because we have a website, kind of a central database where we can compile all of our comp information. So we've got job descriptions listed for all of our positions, all their salary ranges, actual averages. And so we have that at our fingertips throughout the year when we have questions and for the survey. The other nice part is each city in that group has a comp analyst like we have. And so that information is updated consistently each year so we know that it's accurate. This is the listing of all the different cities that we survey. They're all in the Metroplex survey group except for Flower Mound, Grapevine, and Capel. But because they're our neighboring cities, it's good to get their information as well, so we'll survey them individually to get their information. So when we do this survey, we're looking at all the pay plans. You've got the professional pay plan, technical, clerical, administrative, the trades, and then the broadbands, which that makes up your executive staff of managers and directors. And then lastly, the appointed positions. Within each of those pay plans, we look at benchmark positions. What benchmark positions are positions that their roles here at the city, their functions are the same or very similar to what they would do in another city. So for example, a librarian or an accountant here at the city of Louisville, they have the same function as that librarian or accountant in Dallas or Allen. Now Dallas may have more librarians, but their function is still the same. When I look at those benchmark positions, what I'm looking at is the salaries, they've got the minimum and the maximum. I want to look at their midpoints. And so I'm comparing the midpoint of our position here, and I'm looking at the average of all the cities' midpoint to make sure we're competitive with them. Once we get an average of all the different benchmark positions, we can look at the pay plan and then make a determination if one of those pay plans need to be adjusted for the new fiscal year. If they do, they'll go into effect October 1st. Anybody that falls out of the new range that's below the new minimum, we need to bring them up. Typically though, that's a small percentage, maybe 5% of employees would actually fall out of that new range, so it wouldn't be a huge cost to the budget. When we actually got our numbers from our market study, looking at the trade plans, we're about 1% under the average midpoint for the other cities, so we're not far off. Administrative and technical pay plan, we're down about 2% from their average, and then the professional pay plan is also down just about 2%. So what we'll be proposing is that a market increase that is the same as where we need to bring up that variance. So the market increase is one way that employees would increase their pay. The other is a merit increase. Merit increases happen once a year during their evaluation period. That's on their anniversary. That merit increase is determined by city council, must be approved by you. So, probably the last 7 years, we've had an average between 1% and 3% for an increase. Last year was a 5% increase on the merit. This year, we're gonna recommend a 3% increase.
And let me just add one thing that is important to note on this, when we move the salary ranges. So we have a lot of employees that are topped out, so they're at that max. So when we move the trades pay plan 1%, then when their anniversary rolls around, then those employees get a 1% add to their salary. And then the other 2% is just a one-time lump sum. So we have a lot more employees on the top range, a lot of employees that are long tenured. The only employees that are gonna get that 1% or 2% are those we've hired since October, because they're gonna be at the bottom and they're gonna fall out.
For the survey cities, I've never asked this question, I should have. How many of them do a lead versus a lag?
They use different methodologies than we do. Sometimes they'll match to the 60th percentile, and that's a way to age your salary data. I know Richardson used to match to the 60th percentile. So people do it a bunch of different ways. I think Matt can, from a general government perspective, last year we didn't. We're still for general government, just moving, so everybody else is moving. But you have more flexibility with general government employees. When we go out to the market for a professional position, an accountant or something, if they're coming from another city and they've got lots of years' experience, that director can request permission from the city manager to start them at 5 or 10% over market. So that kind of helps that problem. Where with police and fire, we've never had that ability to do that. They start at step 1 except for their recent lateral.
Alright, so police and fire is kind of the same idea how we do the comparison. The only difference is instead of comparing on the midpoint, we're looking at the top of range. So as you know, with the general government employees, you get your merit increases as you move up through a range. The police officers and firefighters, they have a step program that they go through, and so here it's 6 steps to get to top of range. So we compare basically where you can max out on our salary compared to the other cities' maxes. We also look at it rank to rank, so police officer to police officer, and then to what you're mentioning, the lead or the lag city, we have a lag structure. Tradition is what we've done because we're getting that information around February, and it's current year data. And it's gonna update, we're gonna be changing next year's, so we're always kind of chasing our tail in that type of structure. However, last year you approved market plus an additional 2% for the fire and police. Now, I got a good slide coming up that's gonna show how that helped us out. So in this year's study for police officers, the maximum is 77,041. We're not too far behind where the market's at, we're just about a 1.7%. Lag behind them. So what we're looking at is recommending a market plus 2% increase, at maximum of 3.5% total. Fire, pretty close to the same variance. The maximum for the firefighter is 72,954. So again, we're just about 1.7% behind. So we're recommending the same increase. The next slide, this is the slide I like. This lists all the cities that we surveyed. The green is where the survey averages for 2017. the blue, that's where the city of Louisville, I'm sorry, I bumped up one.
Oh, touchy.
Go
I
back
know.
one. Go back one, Melanie.
Oh, you went, we went ahead, I see.
Oh, sorry. So the blue is where the Louisville currently is at with our salary. And so we're just behind the actual average. If we hadn't done that extra 2% last year, you'd have seen us toward the bottom with probably only 2 or 3 below us. So that helped a lot. So this year, what we're proposing brings us closer to the top. But remember, everybody else is changing the pay plans at the same time. So by doing this, we'll probably end up right around the average going into next year. And the same thing with the next slide on the firefighters is you've got the average in the green. We're just below that right now. And that market increase really helped us out. And the proposed brings us up to about 75,000. So a few things I want to point out on police and fire is if we were to move the market to where everybody in the step will move, so if you're in step 2, everybody in step 2 is going to move, everybody in step 3 will move whatever that percentage is, and they'll move October 1st. Now, they move in the step program, so as long as they're meeting performance measurements and they pass their step test, if you haven't hit that step 6 yet, you'll still move up to the next step that next year, which is around a 4% increase for them. And then lastly, the majority of the upper ranks in the police and fire departments are just a 2-tier system, and so you come in at step 1, it takes you 2 years to hit step 2. Broadband, again, that's your directors and your managers. They don't have a range. It's based on a salary by agreement. So we don't look at Dallas and Fort Worth, but we do look at all the other cities to make sure we're competitive with what other cities are paying. However, internal equity is really important when we're looking at a new position or an open position that we're looking to fill. If we were to hire from within, which we look to do as often as possible, then they'll get at least a 5% increase, and then they would be eligible for their merit increase next year at their new anniversary date. And then lastly, I just want to talk about appointed positions. We do a totally separate survey for this because we look at total compensation. So city secretary, city manager, city attorney, and the judge. We send that out in June to all of our survey cities, and I'll have the results back to you by August to let you know where we fall with those. So before we go to the police recruitment, do y'all have any additional questions? Comment?
Anything? Okay. Move forward.
So looking back at June 2016, at one point we were short down 19 police officers. As you can see, number of applications received over the last 3 years, over 2,000. The percent that were actually hired was only 1.1% of those. So we were having issues with getting police officers hired. Only 29% of the applicants who applied actually tested. 62% would pass the test. 87% of those who passed the written test would then move on to the physical and pass that. What I wanted to point out though is in the purple, especially so those who tested, only 3.8% of them were actually hired. So very difficult to hire, but it also, once we hire those, it's keeping them. So when we look back the last 3 years, 32% of those are no longer employed with the city. So we send them off to an academy, so either they don't get through the academy, or they get here and they're in the FTO program with the field training officer and they don't get through that. So we implemented the new lateral transfers program last year in 2016, and that's where you had to be a certified officer to test. You had to be an officer at a city that had at least a population of 50,000 or more, or it could be somewhere that had at least 100 officers, such as DART. Move to the next slide, please.
Yeah, that you didn't have to be that to apply. You had to meet that criteria to get the lateral increase. So some people we hired and they came in at normal.
Mm-hmm. So when we had the first test in September of last year, 67 people met the minimum requirements. 48 actually showed up for the test, but we hired 10 out of that 48. So if you do the math, that's 21% we hired who tested versus that 3.8%. And you're getting somebody who's got the experience already coming in. So those numbers are proof that this process is working well. At this point, I'll pass it over to Chief to talk about the people that we actually hired.
Yeah, to say that the lateral transfer program was good to us is the understatement. to make up that much ground is pretty incredible to do. So a couple of things to point out, if you did the math on the non-certified versus the certified, the non-certified averaged about 304 days from hire date to they got out of FTO training and are on their own, about 10 months. When you do it for the certified guys, it cuts down to 4 months. So really a significant advantage to us, you know, saving 6 months of time on average for everybody to get there. A couple of things are kind of interesting about some of the folks. Mr. Tyler, for example, we say not certified. Technically, he was certified, but he did not complete a training program at the agency he was at before, so he's able to come complete that with us. And so his time was super short. Another interesting thing too, we hired a guy from New York City, PD, a really sharp kid. He was assigned to a very special unit up there, so we were fortunate to get him here. He spoke at least 3 languages in our opinion. He spoke English, Spanish, and Bronx, so he was in good shape there. But he didn't feel comfortable with the changes in the laws between the New York City state laws and Texas laws, and he preferred to go back to the academy. So we lost a little time on him, but I think in the long run it'll be good for us. Next slide. And so, I caught a lot of grief from my fellow chiefs about this lateral program, and they were upset that because we were getting better, the better candidates and some of theirs. But actually, a lot of cities were doing the same thing that we're doing. I don't know how many of these people maybe copied us and decided to do it, or how many were doing it up front, but we knew that was already an existing program. Our big concern was the impact it had on the current troops. Would current officers feel okay with somebody coming in and getting paid the same level? And we do make that distinction that that's all it is. If they've got 4 years of experience, they get paid at that same level of 4 years that they would if they'd been here from day one. They don't get seniority when it comes to picking shifts or their service time with the department. So that's a big distinction that we make. But it's obviously an effective program, and there's no way we're going to make 19 slots in this short of time, right in a year. So
And what's most important today? What are we?
we are full. The last guy starts on June 28th. Now, however,
Wait for it.
I've been sensing a retirement notice from one of my guys going to leave the end of July. So we would only be full for the month. So we've got 4 of those applications left over for the lateral test. I've already told my guys, let's sign one out, let's start working in the background so we can get that full, or get that filled as soon as we can. Of course, we do have the overfill that council authorized. We'll be, as we really get full and stay full for a while, we'll look at that real critically to decide when we could really bring home those overfills, because there'll be some extra salary money that we don't have budgeted. So I know that'd be a hit that you guys have to look at.
But there were several other benefits too. I think we increased our diversity through this program, which is always beneficial. And unfortunately, Dallas's pension problems were a real help. I think timing, we couldn't have had better timing for looking for. We have some really great officers.
Yeah, we ended up with like 4 of those guys from Dallas PD.
And one guy was
2 or
on
3
the
from Dallas.
news.
Yeah, we have one guy's 25 years with Dallas PD, one of their field training officers, sharp guy, but he intends to work another 10 years, and he decided to go ahead and leave the Dallas system and come here and try to finish those 10 years out with us. And so what a great advantage a guy with that kind of experience that we're going to be on that rookie shift on weekends and nights with a bunch of those 2 and 3 and 4 year veteran officers there. So, we're expecting some good things out of him. I figure he'll be an FTO for us eventually.
And the only other important thing to note is, we maintained our background standards, so there was the guys, that's one of the things, as we told you before, that we're most proud of, that those guys are very good candidates from the background process. People that might make other people's background won't make ours. So there were a number that are currently working in other agencies that we had to pass over because they didn't meet our standards.
So one thing I told that group when we had the lateral test is that, we would look strongly at their performance where they're currently working. That would have a big impact on whether we could offer them a position here, and whether they could pass the background. And unfortunately, several of them didn't, but, my hats off to administration, especially your council, for being patient with us and let us endure those openings long enough so we get good quality folks. It's the reason why you don't see bad things in the news about us. Probably just jinxed it. Questions?
Anything?
Chief, I gotta say, in the last 6 months, just roaming the Metroplex, visiting with other cities, this is probably the #1 thing talked about from other cities about what Lewisville's doing right. So I appreciate the entire department because you all had to give a little and take a little to make this all work. And I'm seeing cities with 20 and 30% down in their staffing, because it's hard to be a cop right now. And I want to thank you for giving us the options and being able to provide a home for these guys. I think it's important, and our status in the Metroplex is pretty awesome right now.
I'd love to take all the credit, but, you know, it's good staff.
It's the
and,
team.
You know, it's HR working with us, Ms. Galler working with us, or, you know, ideas and, you know, bouncing things off. And of course, my guys, the ground troops that are willing to say, yeah, you know, we'll do that to try to get filled up. You know, consequently, we've got about 5 or 6 guys that are coming out of training this month, and next month, that will be able to fill some of those specialty units that we've not had filled in quite some time. So that'd be a real plus for us. Thank y'all.
Mayor, we move on?
Yes, sir.
Good. We'll go through the review of the agenda. We'll start with invocation by Councilman Gilmore, followed by pledge to the flag by Councilman Ferguson. Then we got the canvas. Julie, do you need to say anything right here?
I just need to know.
Okay. And I will go down for the presentation. Then followed by the proclamation, and Councilman Jones, you got that? That's right here for you in a minute. So we got public hearing, item 1. Anything? Okay, item 2. Mr. Citizen Forum. Now we're down to consent agenda, item 3, 4, 5. Somebody speak up.
I did have a question on 5. What kind of inflow, what kind of I&I, as far as a rate goes, did we find the last time? I know that's before you were on board.
Yeah, it was done it's been about 10 years ago, and I know we did find a lot of inflow in some areas, and did a lot of testing and field inspections, and did a lot of repairs, and so I don't have a number for you. I can certainly get it for you.
Are we anticipating a pretty considerable number coming back as far as I&I goes, or we think the system's in pretty good shape?
Well, we still have some I&I issues. We can tell at the plant when we get a big rainfall and our numbers really kind of go up. We had a problem out on, there's a 42-inch on the east side of 35, just north of Business 121, that is actually going to be repaired next week. And that has been a cause of a big issue for us. We hope when that's repaired, we'll see a decrease in that flow at the plant when it rains. So, but it's hard to tell with that going on. It's hard to tell what else may be in the system. So,
Great.
I can get you some numbers.
Love it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Item 6. Down to regular hearings, item 7. Julie,
Do you want me to
wanna
read
do
them
that?
all?
Yeah. Julie's got the combined list of all of our picks, and she can read those off.
Animal Services, Brendan Jones, Judy Cromwell, Nick Rudolph, and Marie Nygaard will all be reappointed. On the Arts Advisory Board, Craig Roberts and Tona Sabota will all be reappointed. Joseph Coburn will be appointed in place number 3, and Mary Hampton in place number 9, and place number 7. No recommendation is made, but the search is ongoing for that position. Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, Tamla Bowie, Sarah McLean, Latasha Sherrod, and Debbie Tree will all be reappointed. On Louisville Housing Finance Corporation, Charles Emery will be reappointed, and Joe Rogers will be appointed in place number 3, and Michelle Viner in place number 5. Louisville Industrial Development Corporation, Thomas Grubbs will be appointed in place number 1, James Casey in place number 3, and Charles Emery will be reappointed. On Louisville Local Government Corporation, all members will be reappointed. That's R. Neil Ferguson, Brent Daniels, Brandon Jones, Rudy Durham, and T.J. Gilmore. Louisville Parks and Library Development Corporation, the following members will be reappointed: T.J. Gilmore, Robert Saletti, Ken Judkins, R. Neil Ferguson, Brandon Jones, and Rudy Durham, and Derek Hagen will be appointed in place number 7. On Library Board, Cheryl Moore, Kathleen Rodriguez, and Gail Robinson will all be reappointed, and Angela Wallen will be appointed in place number 7. And Oil and Gas Advisory Board, Dave Leopold and Bobby Dolick will both be reappointed. Patricia Ellsborn will be appointed in place number 7, and the current search is still going for place number 5, which is an industry position. Old Town Design Review Committee, Eram Ally will be appointed in place number 1. Sharon Ellis will be reappointed. Jack Tidwell will be appointed in place number 5, and Bill Peck will be reappointed as an architect. On the Park Board, Cindy Meredith will be appointed in place number 1. And the following members will all be reappointed. Can't say that last name. Orpeza, Robert Saletti, and Michael Pope, and Callie Browning. Planning and Zoning Commission, the following members will be reappointed. John Lynn, Alvin Turner, and Kristen Green. On TIF number 1, Tamla Bowie and Bill Peck will also be reappointed, and we are still trying to find a member for place number 3. On TIF number 2, the following members will be reappointed: Chip Tabor, Michelle Viner, and James Davis. On Zoning Board of Adjustment, all the following will be reappointed: Tom Jensen, James Collier, and Winston Edmondson. On the 2025 Advisory Board, all members will be reappointed: Derek Hainga, I'm gonna have to spell it out, Robert Saletti, Tamla Bowie, Toya Gant, and Ray Hernandez will be reappointed.
Good. Okay. Any questions?
So how's it gonna happen? Is that gonna be just one?
I'll just read it off, and then
And
someone
we'll
can
put it
make a
in one.
motion.
Move this, right?
Okay.
Good. Item 8. Okay.
Item 8, I believe, I'm sorry, item 8, for, Park Board, it was going to be, John Dalvig, and for, the Louisville 2020 Advisory Board, it was gonna be Elena Claros, sorry.
Okay, can somebody get those? And make that motion? That's what we need tonight, correct?
That's all we need tonight.
Okay.
Julie,
Yes, sir.
for next year, could we get time on board? So if somebody's been on a board, how long they've been on that board, can we get that information? I think as we get more residents from the Citizens Academy and more applications, that may be an opportunity for us to have conversations with existing board members.
Okay. We're down to item 8. Then we're into reports, so. Then we got a few closed session items. Okay, we're going to closed session after that. Do I have anything else? Okay, we'll reconvene at 7 o'clock in the council chamber. 7 o'clock, I call tonight's meeting of Louisville City Council to order. First item we have is invocation by Mayor Pro Tem Gilmore, and then followed by the pledge to the American and Texas flags by Councilman Ferguson.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Amen.
Please join me in the pledges to the flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Consideration of items relating to the June 10th, 2017 City of Louisville Councilman Place Number runoff election. I'll now read the canvass numbers. Bob Troyer received 729 votes for 67.69%. Carolyn Wright received 348 votes for 32.31%. We had a total of 1,077 voters.
Now we'll need approval of the resolution declaring the results of the runoff.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We have Bob Troyer up here. Come on, Bob.
He blended in.
Let's get you over here. Go take a picture. No pictures? There's Steve.
Nope, here we come.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Bob Troyer.
I, Bob Troyer,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
execute the duties
execute the duties
of the office
of the office
of Councilman Place Number 1
of Councilman Place Number 1
of the City of Louisville,
of the City of Louisville,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will to the best
and will to the best
of my ability
of my abilities
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws
and
of the United States and of this state and the charter and ordinances of this city. And I furthermore solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, nor promised to contribute any money or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as a reward for the giving or withholding a vote at the election at which I was elected. So help me God.
Councilman, welcome to the dais. Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
I just want to thank the citizens of Louisville for entrusting this position to me, and I want to thank, I have quite a few people out in the audience who worked with me through this endeavor, and I just want to thank them too. I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Good. Thank you.
All right, could I have Mr. Lynn Shipp and the Louisville Amateur Radio Association come up? Okay, I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas amateur radio operators are celebrating over a century of transmitting over the airwaves and continue to provide a bridge between peoples, society, and countries by creating friendships and sharing of ideas. Whereas the City of Louisville recognizes the members of the Louisville Amateur Radio Association and the services they provide to the emergency response organizations without compensation. Whereas these same individuals have furthermore demonstrated their value in public assistance by providing free radio communications for local parades, concerts, and other entertainment events. Whereas the City of Louisville recognizes and appreciates the diligence of these hams, who also serve as weather spotters in the Skywarn program of the National Weather Service. Whereas the Amateur Radio Field Day exercise will take place on June 24th through the 25th, 2017, and is a 24-hour exercise and demonstration of radio amateurs' skill and readiness to provide self-supporting communication without further infrastructure now. Therefore, Rudy Durham, Mayor of the City of Louisville, along with the members of the City Council, do hereby officially recognize and designate June 19th through the 25th, 2017 Amateur Radio Week. That's it.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. Would like to invite everyone out to the Amateur Radio Field Day this weekend. 1 o'clock Saturday through 1 o'clock Sunday. We'll be at Central Fire Station and operating in the EOC. And would like to see you come out and have some fun. Pick up a radio, and you can operate. And some of you guys come out last year and had some fun. And check it out. Anyway, you're welcome to join us, and anyone in the audience and anybody you know that might be interested, bring them on out. Have a good time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Public hearing number 1, consideration of a zone change request from Office District to Old Town Mixed Use 2 District on 0.553 acres located at 143 North Hatcher Avenue. The owner plans to build a single-family home on the property. P&Z recommended approval by a vote of 6-0. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the proposed ordinance as set forth in the caption. We have Richard Ludke, Planning Director, available for any questions.
Okay. I don't have any other cards. Anybody have any questions?
Move to close.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion, second to close. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Does anybody have a motion?
I'd like to give that motion to Bob so he can have his first one.
Okay. Yes.
I move to, to approve the item as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No? Counselor?
This is an ordinance of the Louisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning a .553 acre tract of land out of the J.W. King Survey abstract number 696, located on the west side of North Hatcher Avenue, approximately 200 feet north of West Main Street at 143 North Hatcher Avenue, from Office District zoning to Old Town Mixed Use 2 District zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the public interest and general welfare demand the zoning change and amendment therein made, providing for repealer, severability, and a penalty, and declaring an emergency.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Good luck with your new home.
Public hearing number 2, consideration of a zone change request from General Business District to Old Town Center Business District on 0.068 acres located at 135 West Main Street. This zone change will bring this property into compliance with the Old Town Master Plan. P&Z recommended approval by a vote of 6-0. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the proposed ordinance as set forth in the caption. We have Richard Ludke, Planning Director, available for any questions.
Okay. Is there any questions? No. Is there a motion to close?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Move to approve as presented.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. Counselor?
This is an ordinance of the Louisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning a .068 acre tract of land, being a portion of Lot 7, Block 6, original town of Louisville, located on the north side of West Main Street, approximately 215 feet west of North Mill Street, at 135 West Mill Street, from General Business District zoning to Old Town Center Business District zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the public interest and general welfare demand the zoning change and amendment therein made, providing for repealer severability and a penalty, and declaring an emergency.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Visitor Citizen Forum. At this time, any person with business before the council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the council. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. I've not received any speaker cards.
Continue.
Consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary.
Do you have any cards? Okay, we don't have any cards on this. We have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Item 7, discussion and consideration of appointments to various city boards, commissions, committees. On June 30th, various terms of office on the city's boards, commissions, and committees will be expiring. Those positions have been identified and current appointees notified. The recommendation is that the city council proceed with the appointment process.
Do you want to read those out again? Okay, for a motion? Okay.
Animal Services Advisory Committee, to reappoint the following members: Brandon Jones, Judy Cromwell, Nick Rudolph, Marie S. Nygaard. Arts Advisory Board, reappoint Craig Roberts and Tona Sabota. And two new appointees would be Joseph Colburn in place number 3 and Mary Hampton in place number 9. Place number 7 will stay. There is no recommendation at this time. Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, to reappoint the following members: Tamla Bowie, Sarah McLean, Latasha Sherrod, Debbie Fu. Louisville Housing Finance Corporation, to reappoint Charles Emery, to appoint Joe Rogers in place number 3, and appoint Michelle Viner in place number 5. Louisville Industrial Development Corporation, to appoint Thomas Grubbs in place number 1, James Casey in place number 3, and reappoint Charles Emery. Louisville Local Government Corporation, to reappoint the following members: R. Neil Ferguson, Brent Daniels, Brandon Jones, Rudy Durham, and T.J. Gilmore. Louisville Parks and Library Development Corporation, to reappoint the following members: T.J. Gilmore, Robert Saletti, Ken Judkins, R. Neil Ferguson, Brandon Jones, and Rudy Durham, and to appoint Derek Hainga in place number 7. On Library Board, to reappoint Cheryl Moore, Kathleen Rodriguez, and Gail Robinson, and to appoint Angela Llewellyn in place number 7. On the Oil and Gas Advisory Board, to reappoint Dave Leopold and Bobby Dolek, and a new appointment of Patricia Ellsborn in place number 7. Place number 7, the industry will remain vacant until someone can be found. Old Town Design Review Committee, to appoint Iram Alley in place number 1, reappoint Sharon Ellis, appoint Jack Tidwell in place number 5, and reappoint Bill Peck as the architect. On Park Board, to appoint Cindy Meredith in place number 1, to reappoint the following members: Richard Oropeza, Robert Saletti, Michael Pope, Callie Browning. On Planning and Zoning Commission, to reappoint John Lynn, Alvin Turner, and Kristen Green. TIF number 1, to reappoint Tamla Bowie and Bill Peck. Place number 3 is vacant until someone can be found. TIF number 2, to reappoint Chip Tabor, Michelle Viner, and James Davis. On Zoning Board of Adjustment, reappoint the following members: Tom Jensen, James Collier, and Winston Edmondson. On Louisville 2025 Advisory Board, to reappoint the following members: Derek Hainga, Robert Saletti, Tamla Bowie, Toya Gant, and Ray Hernandez.
Is that it? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We're down to number 8.
Consideration of declaring vacancies exist in place number 4 on the Park Board and place number 3 on the Louisville 2025 Advisory Board, and consideration of appointments to said places. Bob Troyer will be sworn into place number 1 of the Louisville City Council and can no longer serve as a member on the Park Board and Louisville 2025 Advisory Committee. The recommendation is that the City Council declare vacancies and consider appointments as set forth in the caption.
Okay. Does anybody have a motion? Neil, you got anyone?
We have to do the
Yeah, we
acceptance.
just, we have, if you wouldn't mind reading the two.
The recommendation is to appoint John Dalvig on Park Board and to appoint Elena Claros on the Louisville 2025 Advisory Board in these unexpired terms.
Like to move
And
that.
to declare the vacancies.
Yeah, I'd like to move that as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, all the appointees and reappoints. Okay. We're down to reports. Nika?
I do have reports, Mayor. Other than being excited to be sitting next to our new Parks Director, Mr. Lutke, taking over planning, I have a bit of news to share with you, so I was going to just come up.
Okay.
Okay.
So Mayor and Council, last Friday, Mayor Durham, let me just side up. Mayor Durham, Ms. Swan, myself, and Prit Patel attended the North Central Texas Council of Governments General Assembly to receive an award called the Clyde Award for the Wayne Ferguson Plaza. So I wanted to read a bit about the award and why the city was presented with this award. It's an extremely prestigious award. Very few projects in the North Central Texas region received this award, so we were very excited to be a recipient of this award. So on May 19th, 2017, a nationally recognized jury of experts in the fields of architecture, urban design, and planning and development deliberated and chose the distinguished awardees from the 2017 Clyde Award applicants. Among the 21 applications, your project, our project, it's the letter that was sent to me, was identified by the jurors as one that greatly exemplifies one of the more principles of development excellence, and one that they feel provides an example of development excellence in the North Central Texas region. So CLIDE stands for Celebration of Celebrating Leadership in Development Excellence. And we're very proud to have it, and I just wanted to present that to the Mayor and Council, and thanks for all your support and to make the Wayne Ferguson Plaza happen.
Okay, thank you. What are you gonna do next year? Okay. Do you have anything else, Nika? Anything?
No report, Mayor.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Chief?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Lake?
Lake level is just a third of a foot above the conservation, and it may rise a little bit more with the rain we got this morning.
Getting close to July. Okay. Nothing? Okay. Okay.
Yes, Mayor, I've got two items tonight. The first one is for all of y'all who went to Best Little Brew Fest in Texas. What a great time this weekend. It's always fun to get into Old Town and Wayne Ferguson Plaza, and what a fantastic event with what's developed down here in Old Town. The second thing I have tonight is there's always points in living in the city for close to 30 years that you reach these points where you have kind of a pride in the city, and tonight is one of those for me. As you look at other cities that they let politics get in the way of what's right for the city, you know, tonight we've got a new councilman, but you've got, you know, his opponent that's here, hopefully supporting him and everything. That's great to see. And our parks and 2025 plan, people that ran for city council offices, instead of, you know, politics getting in the way of them being on it, they're obviously great people that want to be involved in the city, and I'm excited to see that they're involved in the city now. So I love to see that, and it's just a point of pride for the city that we don't let politics get in the way of letting great people, even though they may lose an election, we want them involved in the city, and I'm so excited to see that. So just wanted to say that, and it's a good night.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Bob. Welcome to City Council. You'll get indoctrinated once we get you in closed session. I just want to congratulate also the members of the Louisville Citizens University who've been becoming appointees on many boards, and just want to stress to anyone who's out there who has not participated in that you look into it. I believe it probably begins in August. It's a 9-month program, and it teaches you everything you need to know about the city.
Okay, TJ.
Couple of quick things. First up, the 2017 Citizen Police Academy is accepting applications. So if you wander onto the city website under latest city news, you can find a place there to get involved. It's an awesome program. Lets you know how our men in blue do their jobs and learn a lot more about the city you live in. It's really a great education. The other one is that the City of Louisville Library actually has a new sub-website. So when you go into the City of Louisville website, go to the library. The amount of stuff they have on the agenda for this summer is mind-boggling. So if your kids say at any time, "I'm bored," after you've handed them a mop, a broom, a vacuum, something else to do around the house, take them to the library. It'd be a great time. They also have a wonderful Facebook feed if you have a chance, social media. So if you want to keep up to date, that's a great place to go. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, Eric, Henry?
Yes, sir. Just wanted to say thank you to all the city staff and various departments that worked the Brewfest this weekend. They were out there early. They were out there late. I want to say thank you to the vendors and the citizens for coming. It was a really neat thing to see. It was a great event, and just want to say thanks for all the hard work.
Yes. Good. Council?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So first of all, it's nice to, I felt like I've sat down here in the back 40 for the last few months, like kind of in my own little world, off by myself. I did have Julie, and then I had Liz, but anyway, I had company, and I always had the protection of the police at hand, so that was a little comforting. But having an empty seat for so long, it felt like I either owned a lot of real estate down here, or I was out in left field one. So having somebody finally in the chair next to me is a relief, and so I want to congratulate Bob on becoming the newest councilman. It's a lot of work. Get ready. That's all I can say. On kind of a similar note, I want to congratulate all the board and commission appointees, and want to say just briefly, these boards and commissions, they're a huge responsibility. The council is first of all expecting you to be their eyes and ears and dig into the details and uncover things and ask questions that we might not think of. We rely heavily on the input that comes from boards and commissions to make final decisions. So you have a very important job and a very awesome responsibility. And I really think our appointees will all do quite well at that, but just want to make you aware, don't take it lightly. It's a big job. And then a little side note on Brewfest, thought it went really well. Big turnout, huge turnout. Probably the smoothest operation we've had since we brought it here. Staff did a great job. Great event, and look forward to it next year. So let's get on to the MCL Grand on June 20th through the 24th. The art exhibit will be Raising Vibrations exhibit. Friday, June 23rd, it'll be one of our continuing acoustic jam sessions. Also, the 23rd will be at 7 p.m. a reception for the annual Visual Arts League's Fresh Ideas winner, and that will also open the annual Fresh Ideas exhibit. So if you want to come to one of those parties, they're open to the public, 7 p.m. You're certainly welcome to be here at the MCL Grand. Sunday on the 25th, the Black Box Series, Songwriter Series continues. We're going to have Tom Faulkner back, who is extremely popular every time, along with Michael Hearn. That's on the 25th at 6:30 p.m. Summer Sounds of Louisville concerts. Tomorrow night, Satisfaction, which is a globally known Rolling Stones tribute band. They'll be on stage starting at 7 p.m. Also have the Farmers Market running before that, so come on down. And then looking ahead on the 27th, we'll have King George, which is a George Strait tribute, and again, very well known. But I'm going to look one further out, July the 4th, because everybody's sort of been speculating and wondering. So first of all, Sounds of Louisville, Petty Theft, the Tom Petty tribute band, also very well known, will be playing the 4th. But the question that everybody's been asking is, are we going to have fireworks downtown? And so I'm going to be the one who gets to say, yes, we are. So come see the concert, come see the fireworks. It's a different setup than we've had before. We'll see how it goes. But if you don't try new things, you never find out if they're good or not. So we're going to try something new. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Bob, you have anything else to add?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I just want to, again, thank everyone for the support, and I want to echo what Councilman Daniels said about, both about Brewfest and about the other candidates in the races. I'm sure everyone is going to be doing a very good job. I enjoyed my 3 years on the park board, and wish John Dalvig the best in his position there. And I've especially enjoyed working with the Vision 2025 plan from the very beginning, and wish Ms. Claros the very best in taking that position. And I guess that's it, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor, City Secretary, thanks for all the work y'all did on the election. I know it was a lot of work for everybody, and the candidates really appreciate it.
Yes.
So thank you. And dealing with 2 counties, it's always a challenge. Officer, thanks for your service to the community. Thank you. We're down to item J, closed session in accordance with Texas Government Code, subchapter D, item 1, section 551.071, consultation with attorney pending litigation. Alitopo versus City of Louisville et al., case number 316 CV 024323N, United States District Court, Northern District of Dallas, Dallas Division. Item 2, section 551.071, consultation with attorney, legal issues related to nuisances and local regulation of sanitation. Item 3, section 551.072, real estate property acquisition. And item 4, section 551.087, economic development, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We'll now go into closed session. We'll call the meeting back to order. Is there any action to be taken?
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We're adjourned.
TJ, you